So we were talking about diving. You mentioned diving is a science, and I completely agree. Diving is a science. There is a lot of research, a lot of study behind it. But in order to do what you were mentioning before, being completely flawless or motionless in the water, is just practice, and it's
Yes.
repetition of the fundamentals of the basics.
Hmm.
So they say in martial arts, you have to be afraid of not one person that knows 1,000 techniques, but a person that knows one technique and have repeated 1 million times. Because when it
Yes.
happens, it will happen in the worst conditions, right?
Yes.
So I was in Patrick's class being tested in the lesson guides, right? So I was actually teaching a class, right? So suddenly it came, like we were talking about the repetition process and all this, and it came like, diving is an art, and as any other art, needs repetition, conscious practice, because it's not the same to repeat something that is wrong or not
Hmm.
perfect, and you have to repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, and work in these little details that will make the difference. So yeah, and then when I finished my class, I was like, "Well, welcome to the art of diving, guys." And I was like, "Oh." I
Awesome.
went out, I wrote it down, and the next day I changed my Instagram page to Art of Diving, right? Or that night,
Fantastic.
and then from that night on was the art of diving.
You're listening to Speaking Sidemount, the podcast where we talk all things sidemount and cave diving, from equipment, skills, techniques, and cave diving expeditions to interviews with some of the world's top sidemount and cave divers. Whether you're new to sidemount, been sidemount diving for years, or just want to know more, this is the place for all things sidemount. I'm your host, Steve Davis. Let's get wet. Hey, welcome back to Speaking Sidemount. I'm Steve Davis. This episode is brought to you by our sponsor XDEEP and by the patrons of Speaking Sidemount. Huge thanks to both for their support that makes everything you're about to watch and listen to possible. In this episode, I have a mid-roll feature from XDEEP on the Exploration Support Program that is supporting awesome divers, scientists, and conservationists all around the world on exploration projects that extend the boundaries of what is known and seek to educate and inspire. Look out for that later in this episode. In this episode, I meet Xavi P. Tapia. His middle name is unfortunately far too spectacular for me to pronounce properly. Sorry for that, Xavi. Xavi hails from Ecuador and cut his teeth in professional diving in none other than the Galapagos Islands, where he spent many years guiding in what can only be described as one of the most amazing environments on Earth. From there, he got an opportunity to work and establish a dive centre at Aitutaki in the Cook Islands, passing through New Zealand no less on his travels there. What followed was a move to the Dominican Republic and a journey to cave diving and cave instructor. And this time he was mentored by Philip Lehman and completed instructor training with Patrick Woodman at ProTech Mexico. It was during this training and discussions on the importance of proper practice that Xavi concluded that diving is something of an art form, and the art of diving was born. Xavi now operates his business, The Art of Diving, out of Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, offering cave diving, recreational and cave training, plus cave trek tours to dive the stunning caves of the Dominican Republic. If you've never seen the caves of DR, get on over to the YouTube channel DR Local, which I think is videoed and curated by Philip. As you'll hear, I've been following this channel for many years, simply mesmerized by both the caves and also the superb skill of the DRSS team. Another recent resource is Scott RG, my guest from episode 88 on the mines of Scotland. He was recently in the DR with the art of diving and posted some epic footage on his YouTube channel and on Instagram. Hey, just a reminder that if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, leave us a rating, and post a comment on whatever platform you are viewing or listening on. The algorithms that promote the show love this, and it makes a big difference in helping us reach a bigger audience. Thanks a lot, and let's get on with this episode of Speaking Sidemount. Hey, Xavi, welcome to Speaking Sidemount.
It's a pleasure to be here, man. I've been following your show and the podcast for a long, long, long time, and I think it's pretty cool what you're doing, and I'm just happy to be here.
That's awesome. And it's quite funny. Like you reached out to me, I think on Messenger or something recently and made a kind comment, which I really appreciated. But then I realized when I saw who you were that I've been following you for a long time, and especially through the work with DRSS, Dominican Republic Speleological Society, and also I think it's Philip's channel, DR Local on YouTube. It must be 8 years ago. I started watching those videos and was absolutely mesmerized with the diving skill in particular. And I've said it a few times on Speaking Sidemount, I learn a lot by watching other good divers. I learned a lot in Gozo in particular with my instructors and peers and other people around there just by observing the way that they dive. And I remember being mesmerized by you guys swimming through the caves in Dominican Republic there and just how balanced and stable and slow and precise, and it was just awesome to me. And so, I've been trying to model my diving on you guys, so that's pretty awesome to close the circle here and you and I get a chance to talk to each other. We've got a lot of friends in common, as we've said. Philip Lehman has been on the show a couple of times. I've had the good fortune to meet Philip in Mexico when I was there a couple of years ago as well. So awesome to have you on as part of the group there in Dominican Republic, and there's so much for us to talk about. But let's get started by just having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Cool, man. So I am originally from Ecuador. Born and raised in Ecuador. I came into diving, and it was immediately like I think you've heard this before from a lot of divers. It's like the pretty romantic thing is like you learn to scuba dive, and then suddenly your first breath underwater, you realize it's like, wow, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So funny story. When I was a kid, I really wanted to be Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. So I grew
That's
up.
pretty fun.
I grew up watching the show like in Animal. I was not the regular kid watching Toons. I was watching that guy with like, that's big snake. You know what I mean? So I really wanted to be something like that. I want to be a biologist, and for I don't know, just life happened, and then you end up doing something else. I went to study social science in college. My very good friend in school, where we were like always saying, yeah, when we grow up, I want to be a biologist. She actually became a biologist, eventually a marine biologist, and eventually an instructor. So I was her first student. It was like, dude,
awesome.
Now's your chance. You know what? Mm-hmm. So I became a open water diver. Went to dive in Ecuador, and it was like, dude, I knew I had to be doing something like this my life. So from that moment on, I like started pushing through diving. After 2 years, I was like literally diving every weekend, until I couldn't afford it to do it that much anymore because, diving is expensive. It's an expensive hobby. And if we talk about technical diving, even more, right? So
for sure.
So I started diving, and then I became an instructor. So Galapagos is in our backyard. So I literally went to Galapagos on vacations on a holiday. I was supposed to go with a friend. In the airport, my friend told me, dude, I'm not coming. I was like, what? I was like, yeah, I'm not coming. I was like, I end up going there by myself. So I knocked the door in a couple of dive shops. Like, I want to dive here, but and I'm a dive master. And he was like, yeah, you can come dive with us. I dove like a week with them. And I don't know, we just had chemistry with the dive shop. Like 2-3 months later, the owner of this dive shop in Galapagos was in mainland Ecuador, and he called me. He's like, hey, you want to meet for a coffee? I was like, yeah, sure. So I went to take a coffee with the guy, and he's like, look, so high season is coming right now, and your English is pretty good. I can't find somebody that speaks English right now. Would you mind coming and help me out like a couple of months in Galapagos?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, let me think about that. Right? Like the moment he just like, would you mind? I was like, where I sign up? You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, let me think. Let me check my schedule. Long story short, 4 years later, I was already working for building. I became an instructor. Funny story, I almost became your neighbor
Wow.
because I living in Galapagos. Something that I really love about diving is that you get to know so many people
Yes.
in diving, and so many people that in real life they are like unapproachable. You know what I mean? But when
Yes.
they are on
Mm-hmm.
holidays and things like that, so opens up so much. And if you know how to hang around this, there is a lot of opportunity in diving, huh? In
Yes.
for growing up uh, in every part of life, right? So I met these people in diving in Galapagos, and then they like how I work. And one day, this guy called me, and he told me like, "Dude, these guys were from Hawaii, and
Right.
they are like, you know what? We're going to retire in the Cook Islands in Rarotonga, and we want to open a dive shop there. Would you
Wow.
mind helping us setting up a dive center there?" And I was like, let me think again. You know what I mean? So I was working in conservation programs in the meantime in Galapagos, and so they flew me to the Cook Islands. So I spent some time in Rarotonga and
Mm-hmm.
Aitutaki, right?
Yes.
So wonderful, 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 wonderful time. And yeah, but for some reason I came back. It's not close, right, to home. So I came back home,
No. Mm.
and then something else happened, and then I went somewhere else, right? So I was living between Galapagos. I became an instructor and working, living a pretty good life. When you're young, diving with sharks every day,
Mm-hmm.
in so one of the best recreational diving sites in the world. You know what I mean? So having a lot of
Yeah.
fun, but then was like something else. What else can I do? I'm
Mm-hmm.
always looking to learn more from everybody. So I was trying to see where to go, and then for some reason, one day, one friend living in Galapagos, she was like, "Oh, I found a job in Dominican Republic." So I started looking Dominican Republic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I started to looking into Dominican Republic, and then I have one friend from Florida that she had a friend in common in Dominican. I was like, "Hey, I've seen you have this friend doing this awesome shit like with the RSS. Like I saw the
Mm-hmm.
videos. They have gone to
Yeah.
Madagascar to explore." And I was like, "Dude, you're friends?" And she's like, "Yeah, she's my best friend, man." I was like, "Dude, can you ask her how's the deal there? Like how you go there? How do you get involved there?" And she
Mm-hmm.
answered me like 2 3 days later, and she was like, "Actually, she's trying to look a full-time instructor." Right? And I was like,
Timing.
I exactly. And I have a problem. My no is broken. I always say yes. Right? So I was like, okay, cool. I can be there, but my was not my intention to come to Dominican Republic and teach resort diving. You know what I mean? Like be resort
Mm-hmm.
diving all year round. But maybe it was a chance to get close to these guys doing these awesome things, like what you say, right? So
Yeah.
and to learn more and all this, right? So I said, okay, I'll be there. I 2016 I arrived to Dominican Republic. I learned how to cave dive. Struggle a lot because um, you know when you are obsessed like I am obsessed, and like you are checking all the details and everything, and you want to learn from all these people. And 10 years ago there were no shows like yours, there were no podcasts like
Mm-hmm.
all these
Yep.
amazing tools that you can just see is what you can have next to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was diving there, pushing myself. Then I learned to cave dive, and then my first guided cave dive arrived. I was so nervous, so like I was already an accomplished diver.
Mm-hmm.
Accomplished, you know what I mean? Like that's what you
I do.
think. You're
Yes.
an accomplished instructor. You're like
Mm-hmm.
the dive instructor teaching with sharks and all that in the Galapagos, being in the Cook Islands, like diving very young. and then you learn to cave dive and you realize, wow, what I've been doing this whole time, right? It's like learning to dive again. So I went to cave dive, and then these guys from Florida came, and I was like so nervous diving with these guys, and then I decide, okay, I need to get better. I need to push myself harder. Uh, then my boss back then, she was very, very, I would say, kindful, pushing me to believe in myself that I can be better, that I have the skills. It's just that I need to believe in myself and start pushing. Then funny story, Philip, that now is kind of a mentor to me, because before before I couldn't travel to Mexico to train, to learn, to see all divers, I was just what my boss was teaching me, what I could learn from people coming. I was like, this guy is diving like this, and I was like, okay, how you do this? I was like, instead of me being the guide, I was like, hey, can you teach me how to do this? And at the beginning, I was a little bit embarrassed of like asking my customers to teach me, until one day one dude came, is like, you know what I like about you? It's like that you are always willing to learn something cool, right? And so I started learning. I 2017, and this is like a before and after of me and diving. I went to Mexico to Patrick. Uh, I went there to start my cave instructor training, right? So that was a second wake up call, right, for me.
Yes, I know
Right.
it.
That was my first wake up call was when I learned to cave dive, and then when I went to train with him was a second wake up call, right? Because I was like, okay, so I know my path now. I know where I want to be in 10 years, and then where I want to be in 20 years. So it all began there. And then you asked me that you like the art of diving. So I was actually, art of diving was born actually in his classroom. I already knew that I want to build something else, not just me working for somebody, and not just being my name. So if you see, my name is not really that much out there. I push myself I push art of diving, and I am pushing art of diving because I don't. At the end of the day, I want to grow older and and see in the back and see the art of diving is doing this, and maybe live of that. It's not only me having to get to the water to pay the bills. So my other passion is, besides diving, is martial arts. I practice Brazilian jiu-jitsu, hence that's why I have these very beautiful ears. Right.
Badges of honor, Xavi.
Or shame. The real martial artist said that this is just lack of technique and more strength. So, but that's another topic. But here we go. So we were talking about diving. You mentioned diving is a science, and I completely agree. Diving is a science. There is a lot of research, a lot of study behind it. But in order to do what you were mentioning before, being completely flawless or motionless in the water, is just practice, and it's repetition of the fundamentals, of the basics. So they say in martial arts, you have to be afraid of not one person that knows 1,000 techniques, but a person that knows one technique and have repeated 1 million times. Because when it happens, it will happen in the worst conditions, right? So I was in Patrick's class being tested in the lesson guides, right? So I was actually teaching a class, right? So suddenly it came, like we were talking about the repetition process and all this, and it came like, diving is an art, and as any other art, needs repetition, conscious practice, because it's not the same to repeat something that is wrong or not perfect, and you have to repeat it, and work in these little details that will make the difference. So yeah, and then when I finished my class, I was like, well, welcome to the art of diving, guys. And I was like, oh,
awesome.
I went out, I wrote it down, and the next day I changed my Instagram page to Art of Diving, right? Or that night.
Fantastic.
And then from that night on was the art of diving, right?
Yeah.
And then it happens. Yeah. So that was actually the origin of art of diving, me cave diving.
Yeah.
And as I said, I met Patrick there, and when he was when I was in Mexico, he was like, you know what? They were doing the transition from IMTV to PSIA back then
Mm-hmm.
when they were
Mm-hmm.
teaching PSIA. So it's like we are also doing PSIA Dominican Republic, and we want you to be our guy there, like our reference guy there.
Sure.
And I guess that's the moment that I start putting my name out, because then all the divers that were diving in Mexico were with these guys. They were like, "Oh, I can go and dive in Dominican Republic." I heard there, and they were pointing my direction, right? So it was like a lot of pressure to get myself better,
Mm-hmm.
not to. I mean, if you end up coming here, probably we want to dive, and I don't want to be
Mm.
a total chaos. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, and he was like, you need a lot of practice with things. So Patrick and Philip, they are very good friends also,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he called Phil, and he was like, hey, we met this guy, and he's diving there. And he was like, yeah, I know the guy, but I've never dived with him. So he invited me one day to, I went back to DR, and he was needing a diver to go in one of his videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he called me and he was like, are you available to dive? I was like, yeah, I will go dive. Obviously, you have no idea how nervous I was. I was like, I don't know if I can express myself freely in this show, but I was like,
Yes, of course.
I'm gonna fuck it up. I'm gonna fuck it up. I'm gonna fuck it up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure thing. I arrived there. He looked at me. He's like, "Hey, man, good." I mean, he goes and he like, I don't know if you know him personally, but he his reason of life besides diving and surfing is like to make jokes on you. You know what I mean?
Sure. Oh, 100%.
So yeah. So he was like, "Yo, don't fuck it up, huh?" I was like, "I will not. Don't worry." I was like,
Exactly.
"Don't be scared, huh?" And I was like, "No, I will not be scared." Huh? So yeah, we went diving. At the end of the day, we couldn't really film that much because the cave was very murky that day. But we did some shots. He comes like, "Yeah, you dive good, man. Try to do this," and then that became like more of a friendship. And then he started inviting me to collaborate in more videos, more filming. I started engaging more in the cave conservation, and then we switch a little bit also besides conservation, the safety,
Yes.
because the Dominican Republic for a long time we have a we don't have a huge traffic, like we don't have a lot of cave divers coming to dive in the caves like in Mexico or places, but we are getting every year more cave divers, right?
Yes.
So we and unfortunately, like in any other places, there is sometimes some not too good practices, right?
Sure.
So we start pushing a little bit with safety, right? Like promoting safety, promoting good training procedures, trying. But instead of pushing the rest of to do it, it's like to do it ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
To do it ourselves the best we can, publish it, publish the safety we're like the type of training we are doing, we're emulating the best divers, right? We
Mm-hmm.
don't have too much we don't have too much students yet, because for some reason no, but we have positioned ourselves like the reference guide of already experienced divers. So they are diving
Mm-hmm.
a lot in Mexico, a lot in Florida, coming to Europe, and then they want a different destination and they find us, right? So we have a lot of experienced divers rather than people willing to learn, right? We have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that already, and now last year I became a sidewinder diver and a sidewinder
Mm-hmm.
CCR diver.
Cool.
So now we are also doing CCR support, right? And we recently had one friend of yours also diving with us, Scott from
Yeah, Scott Adji, yeah.
so say Scott RG. So I think he was pretty happy about the caves in DR for what I've seen in the social media. He has reposted a
100%.
lot.
Yeah.
So we're trying to do step by step, little by little, just growing like little by little, but not pushing too fast. Like getting solid foundations before we move to the next step. So it's been a long time, but it's paying off little by little.
That's awesome. Well, what an opening. So you've given me pretty much the entire podcast in one go, and that's great. So thanks so much.
No.
I mean, I asked you off mic about the art of diving thing, and it's so cool to hear how that came about, because when I saw that name, I thought, yeah, that's absolutely right. There's so much science. There's an element of sport, I guess, in diving as well, but it doesn't really feel like a sport because we're not competing against each other per se. We're just kind of taking part, and maybe it's a pastime, I guess. But this thing about it being an art form, I remember back to when I interviewed Misha. I don't know if you listened to that one. It was way back, like episode 2 or 3 or something. But he was a drummer, a professional musician, and he talked about applying the same practice discipline to his diving that he did to his musicianship, to his drumming. And so that meant, practicing 2 hours a day, every day, whether he liked it or not, whether it was cold, whether it was hot, it didn't matter. And as a result, you see the results and what a technician he's become. And I know it's the same for the likes of Patrick. And I know Philip gets in a pool and practices whenever he's got something he wants to work on. And so it is such a thing. And I kind of have to correct something that I said in the last episode too. I felt didn't feel right with me at the end, because I talked about maybe you can take the practice thing too far. And I think there is an element, and where I was really coming from was not to feel this pressure. And I was kind of looking at myself to some degree there, where, I told you before, I only get to dive every weekend or every second weekend sometimes. So it's not as if I can get in the water every day and dive. So, you've got to make sure that the diving stays fun and you don't feel this pressure to be doing no fins training during your 1 or 2 times you get to dive each week. And so, but I remember back on that subject, back to what we did in Gozo and what I do now, which is I do practice every dive, but I practice at the end of the dive, maybe after I've done whatever deco obligation I have, or when we're finished and we're back somewhere. And I'll always pick a skill that I'm going to work on that day, and I'll practice that at the end of the dive. So whether that's I've got to hover motionless for a period of time, whether I've got to bail out on my rebreather, whether I've got to take a mask off while I'm doing something else, just something that you can work on so that you can maintain your skills and keep them sharp. And so I wanted to put that out there so people didn't get the wrong idea from what I said last time. And you mentioned about your own practice. I mean, tell me about the path that you went through when you initially started to meet some of the world-class divers, the Phillips, the Patricks. You did training with Patrick. How did you then go about working on your diving to get to where you are now?
So it's good what you mentioned right now about the practice, because I was seeing all these guys. Like, for example, when I went to Mexico, the first time I did the no fin practice, it was a complete disaster, obviously, because I never thought of for example, the little details that nobody teach you. Well, now you can see it. Before, nobody would teach you about, you have to be the master of your equipment. Before you put on your equipment on, you should know how your body floats properly.
Yes.
Right? In order to properly balance the weight on your body and all this stuff. So it was a disaster, right? And I was another wake up call, as I called you, right? So good thing is that, for example, that moment I was with Patrick, an instructor that told me, okay, disaster. Good thing is I can fix it. So I will teach you how to fix it. So sure thing. I went, practiced a little bit, and boom, eventually I had my experience, my skills, I could manage it. But then to manage to that point that it will be actually motionless, it takes a lot of time. So every day. I was teaching open water divers. I was guiding in a BC, like a regular BC with my weight belt and like the standard. And then at the end of the dive, I would remove my fins and everybody was looking like me. It's like, why are you doing that? I was like, because I just really need to practice, right? So I was practicing all this, and keep practicing because buoyancy is a perishable skill. I think that's the way you say it, right? Perishable
It
skill.
is correct.
If you don't practice,
Yes.
if you don't practice, you forget. It's like any other art, like my martial arts. Now I teach a lot more. I do more diving than martial arts. When I go to train, jiu-jitsu, for example, my brain knows what to do, but my body has a 5 minute delay. You know what I mean? So it's the same. You have to keep it sharp, and then a different tool. You will have to relearn everything again. For example, as I told you before, I'm in Spain right now. I came here to Spain on a mission to try to put a little bit more the name of the art of diving, dive here in the caves in Europe, a little bit just to promote Dominican Republic a little bit more, right? And well, between more reasons, right? So diving in cold water for me has been. I am not a good friend with cold water yet. I am working. I am very polite with cold water. I go every day, say hello. You know what I mean? Try to become friends, but it's a completely different thing, right? So trying to hover on a thick undergarment, especially when you've never been so bulky, and then it was everything at the same time because I came here to Spain and I went visit. I know you know them also, the guys in Blueforia, Danny and Marion and all these guys, which are very, very good friends of mine. We became good friends in Dominican Republic. So I did my Mod 1 with him and his staff in Sardinia. Then I did my Cave CCR with Jacek in Spain.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
At Cava del Agua?
In Cueva del Agua, exactly, yeah. Cueva del Agua, awesome. And then so I've been learning from more people, right? Trying to filter out what I want, trying to build my own style within the reasonable and the acceptable thing, you know. And but for example, the practice to make the 50 hours to do the Cave CCR. I did it in cold water. Like
how cold?
Well, I don't know how much is for me. For less than 22 is already cold. So but the thing is, I was doing 50 hours in a rebreather in 14 degrees water in a wetsuit.
Yeah. Oh no, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, in a wetsuit in 3 weeks. So I was putting a lot of time I will go to Acala with very good friends here. I have a dive buddy from Cuba that lives also here in Spain, so we dive a lot together. And he was backing me up in the cold water, but I was doing like in a free diving 5 mil suit with a shorty on top. I was doing because it took a while. I ordered my dry suit, but it took a while to arrive. Right. Then all this time that I've been pushing here in Spain it has been a constant training. So when you are used to have something sort out, right? Then having this, it's a little bit frustrating, but it's all mental because you don't get to. You have to like. You're like on a constant something new. So I did my hours. Then I went to Cueva del Agua, which is warm. It's 30 degrees. So I was diving there, and then it was like, I'm home again. You know what I mean? Even a little bit warmer than home.
Sure.
Then the class, putting myself to train in cold water with the rebreather. When I removed the cold water pressure, then the cave class was. Well, I don't know if it was flawless. That we have to ask Jacek, you know. But at least for me was that was a lot easier. So that's why if you train hard, you fight easy. That's what we say, right? So training training is a very important part of our philosophy, like being prepared for every condition. So
Yep.
art of diving is not only me, man. I create art of diving. I push for art of diving, but as I told you at the beginning, is my staff there for the cave diving. I have Pavel, that I probably Pasha. You have seen it around. So
Yes.
so it's him. Then I have Paola, Stefan for everything, and we within our levels and training,
Yep.
doesn't matter if you're an open water diver, an advanced open water diver. We try to have not the same pressure in training, but the same vision of where I want to be in 10 years
Sure.
or in 5 years or in 2 years, right?
Yep.
So we
Yep.
try to do that, and the only way to push our students to train is that push yourself as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you were saying there. And it's quite funny. You were talking about going from warm water to cold water. When I went to do my cave CCR and my Mod 2 with Patrick, it was the other way around. So New Zealand here in the winter is about 14 Celsius in the north here, maybe 15. And this is in the ocean. Normally we're diving. And it doesn't warm up really until you get into December, January with Southern Hemisphere, of course, so different seasons from the north. But the funny thing was then I went to Mexico. So whatever you got there, 22, 24 Celsius, maybe a bit warmer in some places. And I had to go the other way. I was used to my dry suit with thick undergarments, and I had to take them all off and have thin undergarments. And it was really a bit of an eye-opener, the changes. And it is, I think, a real skill set. And it's one thing that I've tried to do myself, because I've dived. I haven't dived really cold water, like ice water under perhaps 8 Celsius, but I've done a lot of diving at 10, and I've done a lot of diving between 10 and 16, and then a huge amount of diving between 16 and tropical water as well. And it really is a skill set to be able to manage yourself in different amounts of undergarments, different cylinders maybe. So, sometimes you'll dive steel in salt water especially. Sometimes you dive aluminium. Of course, a lot of places like Mexico, you can only get aluminium anyhow, or aluminum. So I think it is a real thing to practice if you can, and a great thing that you've done to go to Europe and experience something different so you can then put that into your base of knowledge. A little bit, if you use the martial arts sense as well, it's a little bit like practicing different arts as well and learning from those. I think it's a real positive for your diving.
No. I was going to tell you that, like what you said, with the cold water, for me was it was a challenge that I think it has made me even more humbled. Because if you go a little bit high up and then you realize you suck, you can't control it all. You know what I mean? Yep. And then it takes a bill. Like I was training I went to France to dive in the caves, and then you go deep and cold. And then it's a lot of respect for people that do that, and I want to do it. So I practice more, and eventually I will. This is the driver, wanting to do the next level. Like I want to do this, I want to do this, but also you need to break yourself that I want to do this, but first I need to go through all this process. So this is the core of what we teach. You can't, this, I don't want to go politically incorrect, but you can buy your way through. You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Absolutely. Let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. There are places where the light fades and only the bold keep going. Where silence surrounds every breath and every moment matters. This is the world of underwater exploration, the last frontier. It's the world XDEEP was made for. From the ice-covered caves of Scandinavia through to the deep passages of Mexican cenotes to submerged tunnels beneath mountain fortresses, XDEEP gear is trusted wherever precision, durability, and focus decide the outcome. The XDEEP Exploration Support Program exists to back those who go beyond, those who explore to understand, who dive not just for depth, but to document, protect, and inspire. With advanced equipment and meaningful support, XDEEP empowers explorers, scientists, and committed divers who push the boundaries beneath the surface. Exploration begins with a question. Progress begins with action. Lead your path with XDEEP. Discover more at exploration.xdeep.eu. Huge thanks to XDEEP for their support of the show. Let's get back to this episode. So, the cool thing that you're talking about, like, not only have you experienced different places, and that's cool in itself, you know, I mean, obviously you're going to Spain and to France and to Sardinia, and then also learning from different people. I've done a lot of that myself. I mean, I've trained with John Chatterton, for people who know wreck diving, you know, one of the world's most famous wreck divers, from shadow divers and up in the Andrea Doria days. I've trained with Ed Sorensen. I've trained with Patrick. I've trained with Tom Steiner, you know, so all very different perspectives, different locations. So it's a very, very cool thing to do that. And you have to treat it a bit like what I say, a buffet, you know, where, you know, not everyone's going to say the same thing, and people dive differently. So you have to sort of understand the why. Ed would say this a lot: understand the why behind the how. And that's a really good question to ask, you know, why do you do it that way? But it gives you a great perspective it must have been great for you to be able to train with Jacek, for instance, and learn from someone of his caliber, and also, you know, on the Sidewinder, having learned from someone else. How did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, it's learning from everybody. I think you can learn from everybody. You can learn from, obviously, the better instructor you get, the more experience you will get more. But once you know where are you heading, or where you want to be, you can learn pretty much from everybody, from people with less experience, maybe filter some details, right? How people do it. But then when you are with people that have done it, I don't know if all, but have done it a lot more than you, right? For me, is I always learn from. I try to get everything. Like, the idea is that what I see is that some people, when they go to learn, they always have a position and an opinion, right?
Yes.
Which I think is valid, right? But if you are going to learn, you have to put yourself in the student seat, right? You have to forget that, you know, how do you think you do something. Sit there and learn. Go and actually listen, right? And then 100%. If you're an experienced instructor, if you are an experienced diver, not really an instructor, or if you've done so many things that work out, then you take all that information, you filter what you like, or you filter what you can use on your diving, in your teaching, in your whatever you want to, the purpose of your training is. And then you filter and you create your own things with things that are within the acceptable universe, right? It's not, I'm not telling, go and invent something that doesn't work at all, and it's proven it doesn't work, right? It's like, So, for example, for me, from Blueforia, from Patrick, for example, what I took is, first of all, he's a guy that it's very, very, very meticulous in the detail, right? So I take from Patrick the detail. From Blueforia, I take the how organized, how like everything is on, like how everything is like super structured as well, right? And also the how do you call, the empathy they have for the students, like the empathy that you to try to work on your weakness in a certain approach, or weakness in a certain way that you can actually improve it, right? And from Jacek in general, it's just like how structured he is, right? And I found out that Jacek, it's a person that he will not hold anything for him. Nothing. For example, with this key Sidewinder 2, he's been so busy with a lot of things. And then I try, when I have issues with the Sidewinder, because I'm fairly new with the Sidewinder, right? Sometimes there is something that I really, I use all my resources and I really don't know how to solve it. I will send a message to Jacek and say like, hey, professor, how are you, man? Look, I have this issue. And then he's like, I remember he was in the boot show in, I don't know, September, October, I don't know. And then I was like, look, sorry to answer so late. I'm in the boot show. Try doing this. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a guy that will not hold things for himself, right? So I took that from him, and then, well, you've seen me. I try to give it all. I try to give it all. Sometimes I think too much. Then from the other guys, the empathy. So I try to build up my teaching on what I like from all these people, trying to create the ideal, which is never really ideal, but I try to get the best of everyone, right? So this is the styles.
One thing when I was with Patrick too, and I've been doing this for a long time. You know, if you're the student, you shouldn't be the one doing most of the talking. You should be doing virtually all of the listening. Maybe I learned this. Like you, I've done martial arts for a long time, and you don't get to do a lot of. You can ask questions, but you don't get to do a lot of talking, do you? Like you're the one doing the listening. And I find sometimes in diving, a lot of students, or some students, want to make excuses or question, or it's okay to ask questions, but I said this to Patrick when I turned up. I said, my job is to sit here and I'll swear too, shut the fuck up, listen to what you've got to say. I'll ask questions if I need to know something, but I'm just here to listen and learn everything I can from you and the very short time that I get to spend with you here. And it's really important. And what you're saying, the only way you can capture all of these details from each instructor is to make sure that you're making the most of the time by doing that. And as I said, it's okay to ask questions, and especially if you don't understand, but don't be there wasting time by doing too much of the talking. You want your instructor to be doing that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, exactly. This is as I was thinking. I am an instructor and I am teaching on fairly regular basis. But then, if I am going to learn, I am there to learn, right? I don't. I mean, the instructor, whoever is in front of me, he doesn't really care of what I have teach before or what I have done or how I do it. I am there to learn from him. So I don't need to go and pay you to off with you. You know what I mean? I am there to get as much of you, pay you to teach me, and I want to get your information. I am not paying you to listen what I do, unless I am actually asking you an advice on how to teach something. That's a different story. But then when you're learning, it's exactly what you say. I am there to become a sponge, and this is what I think, and this is what I think is part of what have built my diving itself, is that when I go to somewhere, I am willing to learn, and my ego stays in one side. Right.
Hey, let's move on a bit. I want to ask you about the Dominican Republic, because as I mentioned to you, I'd love to go there sometime. I think most people know where it is, at least I hope they do, in the Caribbean Sea, somewhat to the southeast of Cuba and a little bit west of Puerto Rico. And funny enough, I looked on the map and almost directly east from Yucatan. So great location. And obviously people, if you're following what I've been following, there's cave diving there. But tell us a bit about the Dominican Republic as a place, what it's like to live there, what it's like to go there as a visitor.
So Dominican Republic is just paradise in Earth. Dominican Republic has everything from the culture, from the beach, and then less known, the caves, the jungle. So the island is karstic, so there is a lot of sinkholes. Now, known caves itself, there is spotted quite a few caves, like a lot of caves. Now, the issue or beauty, if you want to call it, is that logistically, it's not Mexico. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not that you go to playa and then you walk yourself to the dive center, hop on a truck, and in tops half an hour you have a range of I don't know, hundreds. I don't know how many caves you have in less than half an hour. VR it's not like that, which a lot of people see a problem. We saw an opportunity, right? So when for avid cave divers that come exclusively to cave dive, we create a plan that we call it the cave trek, right? So the cave trekking is basically we organize pretty much everything for you. You just have to bring yourself to Punta Cana. This is where we are based, right? And then in Punta Cana, we pick you up. You sleep in Punta Cana the first night, and then we drive through the island, right? And we switch locations, sleep in different towns of the island, so you get to know a little bit more of the island rather than just the resort and back and forth for 2 hours each way every day or more, right? Because from Punta Cana, the caves, you have a few caves in 1 hour driving range, 2 hour driving, 5 hours. So, for example, myself, I am located 7 hours from Cabarete, from 7 hour driving from where Philip is, right? So in that area, we have quite a few caves, right? But you have to drive. So it gets uncomfortable. Sometimes going to dive for an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2 dives of 1 hour, and having to be 5 hours driving, it's not that comfortable, right? So what we do is this: we pick you up, we bring you to different spots, so you get to know caves, you get to know the island, and a little bit of the culture, experience everything. We put you a guide. It's either me or Pasha. Nowadays it's more Pasha driving, doing all the fun stuff, right? This is one thing. If you really want to make a living of diving, it turns into a business like any other regular business. Sometimes it's not all fun.
I've seen a bunch of them on Philip's videos. I mean, which are some of your favorite ones?
Caves, I really like quite a few. I like Dominican Republic. We have everything. We have Power Caves, which is El Toro. Is probably the most popular cave in Dominican Republic, which is El Toro Cave. It's a very long cave with so many different. It's just one tunnel, one massive tunnel. In some parts, you can't see the walls, and even if the water was clear, you will not even you will not even to see it because it's very big tunnels and you have murky water. You have in some part, in other parts, you have crystal clear. You have a very thick halocline, which is probably the most popular halocline online. Is I think a few years ago they baptized it as the stealth halocline. So it's brackish water, fresh water, and brackish water, but the water is tainted by a bacteria that is found in this tunnel, right? So it's very thick. So you have like super crystal clear water on top, and then in the bottom is like it's very dark. So when you're passing through it, the water bulges over your head. So it's just fantastic, and this is available. You can see it pretty much everywhere. So this cave, it's probably my favorite. I do have a love-hate relationship with that cave because that cave almost tried to kill me once. So it's a very long cave. Long story short, I was diving. This is one of the advantages of diving rebreathers now. I was doing a very long dive, a double stage dive. I was pretty much at my turning point, so that means around 110 minutes in the cave, and suddenly couldn't equalize. So it was tough, right, on the way back. So when I arrived to my first stage that I dropped in the line, my Sidemount tanks were almost empty. Then when I saw my stage was this is probably the closest I ever been of seeing God, I think, because I saw the stage and I was like, ooh, there's my stage. And then so I came out. I couldn't dive for quite a few weeks because I completely messed up with my sinuses, my eardrums coming out of the cave. So I had this like love-hate relationship with that cave back in the day. I even left like a kind of a trauma, you could say it, because every time I would go back to dive in that cave, the night before,
Mm-hmm.
I would not sleep, not because of scare. It's just because I would be congested, completely congested. Just thinking, like the day before I go to the cave, I would start
Yep.
like going I
Yeah.
don't know. It's like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. I don't know how to say it in
Almost,
English. Sorry.
almost psychosomatic, right? Actually, I've got
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you the difference on a rebreather because it happened to me on my last cave trip. It was only earlier, what are we, June now? So no, it was in May. And same thing. And I've been having a little bit of trouble with my Sidewinder. It had a very small leak. And so I'm at how far am I in? Not so far, 800 meters into a cave, probably 50 minutes or so, maybe a bit longer into the cave through a restriction. And then we're in this beautiful room called the Elephant Room at the back of, this is Tank Cave in South Australia. And I go to our plan was to go over the top of that and around the other side. So it was a drop from I'd gone up to about 8 meters in there, I think it is, and then back down to 18 meters. And on the way back down, I couldn't get down. Same thing. I'm on a Sidewinder now, though. My buddy's open circuit, though. And I came back up into the elephant room and I had to wait there for 5 minutes before I could get even it to equalize a little bit. And at the same time, my rebreather was starting to gurgle on the exhale side. So now I've got the rebreather gurgling. I've got enough bailout, but you're starting to have the same thoughts that you do, which is basically I've got enough bailout to get out, but if I have to come out really, really slowly, I hadn't calculated, that slow. And luckily, and then the restriction that you have to go through is not a very difficult one. It's about your body width, and it's very rocky because it's been worn through a lot of divers going through it. It's called the goat track. And that goes down. It's not completely vertical, but it's on an angle, maybe a 45-degree angle or so. And so I basically had to sort of get myself down there through that. And thankfully, I was equalizing a little bit. When you get that little sound, little squeal was
It was
happening.
like,
And exactly. And so I was getting the little squeal happening. And thankfully, by the time I got to the bottom, it was sort of somewhat okay. And I was able to carry on and get out. And from that point, it was still quite up and down, but not too bad. So, yeah, it was. And of course, on the way back, I ended up bailing out because the rebreather it wasn't terrible. It was on the exhale side. So I don't think I was going to get a caustic, but it was bad enough that it was annoying me. And now I was comfortable that I wanted to stay on the rebreather while I had the air issue so that I'd get the time out of the equipment. But then, yes, I mean, I can empathize with what you were saying because it's very disconcerting to have that happen to you. And all of a sudden it puts a lot of pressure on your gas planning, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Now, like, for example, and then I've been in that cave quite a few times already, and diving it in the Sidewinder is psychologically it was completely different. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, you know what? I can sort it out, whatever happens, and then actually, sure thing. I went there. I started reminding what happened that time, and I got a little. So I was like, okay, wait. And I took my time, clear up my sinuses, no problem. So this cave is just it's just super cool. Then it's quite a challenge to get all the way to the end of the of the line to the first sump, right? Only a handful or 10 people or so have reached really the end of that sump. Then to the other side, only 2 people, which is Patrick and Philip, right? They have actually a video on that. So that cave is kind of a cave, a must, right? It's not for everybody because it's a power cave, especially hitting the end of the line. We don't really bring customers all the way to the end of the line. Actually, Pavel Pasha went to the end of the line for the first time. I've been in the end of the line only once in that part. Pasha went with Scott. You have one guy that is very experienced guy. You can take it, but the average. First of all, the logistics to get there, because you need a triple stage. If you breathe low, if you breathe a little bit more, so logistically, it's a difficult cave to dive. So it's a pretty cool cave. Even at the entrance of the cave, you have very big rooms the thick halocline that then suddenly change and it turns like you're diving inside an iceberg because it's like bright white. Then you have a clay collapse and massive room that looks like I don't know. For me, it looks like a mine. Like an open sky mine where because you can actually see there's a little bit of flow. So it's just insane. And then you have caves like Mexico, like with a lot of formations, crystal clear water. Then you have caves in Santo Domingo. The Taina cave is a very popular cave where it's in a private villa. So you go, they open you a main gate, super cool, and then this the cenote or the manantial is right there. It's the pool of the guy, basically, right? So it's the pool of the guy. They let us go in. And then, funny story, for example, this cave, I am not saying you have to go and do it, right? But this cave has another entrance in another side. And so in the entrance we go in, it's a private villa. In the other side, it's a private club, right? The other entrance is like a private hot tub, but not a hot tub, but it's like a tub. They have like a little bar and they close it and everything. And once we reach the end of the line, but you can see there is a little bit more cave, right? And I was with a guy, right, with a customer. And he was like, give me your spool. And I was like, no, we have to turn back. I was like, give me your spool. So we took a spool, we tied, and we just moved a little bit forward of the end of the line. And suddenly we saw an opening. And then suddenly a small bicycle right there. So, and then we resurfaced in that area, and there was people in the top having drinks there. And we resurfaced, and the guys were like, "Wow!" Everybody started yelling. You have no idea. It was like, oh my god! It was like it was surreal for these guys. Probably worst thing happened coming from from the underworld to, you've been bad. Dude.
Yeah. Oh, to me, that would have been so cool. I'd have loved that.
yeah, exactly. So we have these. Then we have caves like El Chicho. We have La Jeringa cave, which is also very popular. Jeringa, it stands for injection, like the injection shot, because it's all restricted, right? So it's pretty cool because you go and you enter through an abandoned pump house, right? So you enter through an abandoned pump house right there. Right now, since it's abandoned, they have stole people, the community around there. They stole all the copper, the keys, the water connections. They are all gone. But before, when I was at the very beginning, it was like a complete pump, right? So you will go inside the pump, pass through the tubes and everything, and then it's like a little crack, and then you squeeze yourself there. And then you go to a main tunnel, then you have a side passage, and it's all restricted. So that's a pretty fun dive. And the good thing is that you can go, because it's a gravel, so even it's restricted, you have to be very, 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 not even trying hard, you will completely filter out. So it's a cool fun dive. It's a good training cave also for complex navigation and restrictions, because you will not really silt it out, and it's fun to practice to pass through the restrictions and everything like that. So it's fun. We have many caves to go and visit that they are very popular. In the north, we have the Dudu Cave, which is probably the only one in Dominican Republic that is an actual cenote like Mexico that you can open, and it's like the whole the full-on sinkhole, and then you have the tunnels to the sides, right? So these are pretty much the caves we have opened logistically accessible, because so those ones are kind of easy access. You drive all the way there. We have more caves for the more avid divers, but business-wise, it's a little bit more complicated because the logistics are super hard. Like, I mean, you have to go and then go off-road like for a very long time, do the porting the tanks in. Business-wise, it's difficult because you will have to use half-day just to get to the water, and then half day back, and then so that is for more different purpose, right? But caves, we have a lot of caves right now. We are exploring more caves. Where Philip is the one pushing a lot of the cave exploration in the Dominican Republic. We have quite a few caves that they are yet under exploration. I actually became a rebreather diver, say a CCR diver, just because there wasn't. For me, was no. I need more range to get inside the cave, because the cave was gone in open circuit. It was going to be a hazard. So actually, was Philip the one when I did the mod one? He was the one like do the CCR now, like now, fast. That's why I was like diving in the cold water a lot to get my CCR done ready so we can go and explore the cave faster.
Last thing I want to ask you about is the conservation side and what you're doing in Dominican Republic in terms of conservation, because I'm quite interested. A lot of my guests, it's quite bizarre how many are seriously well educated. And I mean, you have a master's degree, I think, and was it in marine resource management? And so I can see the tie-in between that and the interest in conservation. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing in terms of conservation in Dominican Republic.
So there is many initiatives of conservation itself, but now what we are really doing is, first of all, we're working with people, community, trying to orientate the people, first of all, that the sinkholes are not garbage bins. They are not your personal garbage bins. Especially when you go to the neighborhoods near Santo Domingo, the caves they're dirty. So we try to educate a little bit the community about the importance, the importance of the cave itself. We do cleaning of the caves as well, and also with the conservation and preservation, more right now nowadays is safety oriented. For example, we are replacing all the lines in the caves that we have access to. At least the most, the ones we visit the most. Chicho, Padre Nuestro, Jeringa, and recently El Toro. We changed the original exploration lines for the thick gold line. So about El Toro Cave, what I was telling you before. So right now in February, we just collaborate with TV producer, and we film a documentary. Nice. About Dominican caves. I don't know how long it will take to be out there. I will for sure let you know when it's gone.
Yeah, thank you.
But this is we did it with the RSS and these guys right there. And then while diving in the Toro Cave, we literally had to abort the dive because the line just broke on us. And when we were trying to fix the line was like disintegrating in our hands.
Wow.
Right. So we put a message on the DRSS website, in my website, and our staff. We spread it within the community of instructors to let everybody know that the line was broken. So we went there and we replaced like 250 meters of all this line in this area. So the problem is that this line was laid in the water exchange zone with the tide, right? So the exchange from salt to fresh water completely destroyed the line. It was getting bad, but in terms that every time we went diving there, we will replace 10 meters of line, 15 meters of line. So right now we just went and completely removed the line and changed 250 meters of line. And we replaced the line a little bit outside of trying to move it at least as much as we could away from the exchange zone. So it will be good for a little bit longer this time, right? So
awesome.
We try to do that as much as we can, and people, well, I don't know, maybe you realize, but people outside, we live of this, right? So we bring our customers of this. So we take also some time just to go there and do this maintenance in the lines, changing all this. And this is we use a lot of resources to do this, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we put a lot into this, into the safety. We are kind of educating people about the importance of the water, because these people they are drinking from this cave. But then when you go to dive there, you realize it's like, I don't know how these people is not sick, right? Because
Yeah.
in some places the cave are very, very, very bad. So we try
Mm-hmm.
to promote that at least the owners of the caves protect the caves, right? Help them cleaning, help them recovering things from the caves, and
Mm-hmm.
and well, and pretty much spreading the safe diving practices. That's our biggest issue, or our
Yeah.
biggest
Yeah.
aim: safe diving practices.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hark back to the episode I did with Ed Sorensen after the double fatality you guys had there a few years ago. And I mean, it was one of my biggest episodes. It's a bit sad, that people have to die for that, but I covered it with Ed, and I covered that both with Philip as well, talking about what happened there. And it's, you made the point earlier on after you'd come back from Galapagos. I'm assuming you had several thousand dives of experience by the time you became a cave diver, but it's a different type of diving and a different skill set, and the knowledge that you need to be able to safely dive in a cave is not something that you learn on any other course except a cave course, maybe a rec course, parts of it. But it's really important that people understand that they should not be going into overheated environments unless they've got the right equipment and they've done the training.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happened. And then we get a lot of. I don't want to get like too politically in this, but we get a lot
Mm.
of angry faces sometimes, or people don't like in. So I got threatened once. I got threatened once by a customer because he was a repeating customer. He ended up coming dive with us, and he
Mm-hmm.
insisted me to bring him inside the cave,
Mm-hmm.
and then I told him, look, man, this we don't do, right? And he was
Mm-hmm.
like, but I've been here like 3 times
Yep.
already, and I've done so many times. I was like, I'm so sorry about this. This is the way we do it. We so the things started escalating a little bit. And it's like, look, I don't know. You're not from here. Your language is not English, not Spanish. But right there in that sign, there is in 3 different languages, and it says, "Do not cross the line without training."
Yeah.
So we do not do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I went like it escalated. So it's like, I'm only protecting you. And he goes like,
Yeah.
to protect me, I have my bodyguards. And I was like, he got so upset on me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
lose sometimes
Yeah.
customers, we lose sometimes, but I mean, it's a cost that
Man,
we
you
are.
didn't lose anything, did you? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I've had a similar experience. This is a wreck dive, right? The Canterbury wreck, which everyone knows I talk about a lot. I'm going there this weekend, and I had a guy who came to me, and he was looking for a buddy, and he wanted to buddy with me, and like, I'm happy to buddy with people and show them through the wreck as well. But he claimed that he'd been to every compartment on the ship, and that he'd been through all of it. And I said, "Oh, well, that's great. Let's go. Yeah, we're happy to dive." And I said, "What configuration are you diving?" And he said, "Oh, I've only got a single cylinder." And I said, "There is no way that I'm going to dive with you inside a shipwreck with you on a single cylinder. No way in the world." He said, "No, I'll be fine. I've been there before. I've done it heaps of times." And I said, you have, but you're not doing it with me." And I said, the minimum you're going to carry is a pony bottle, and either that or a twin set or a side mount or a rebreather. But there's no way that we're going in there unless you are carrying the right equipment and trained. And he was pissed off at me as well. And that attitude is so wrong. And I hope I went some way to correcting him on that. He didn't threaten me; that wouldn't have gone down very well. But at the same time, the thought that you can do that is so wrong, and needs to be corrected when you see it. So you absolutely did the right thing. I don't think you lost anything.
No, and something else is that business wise is almost not good, because if you're doing
No.
things like that, then you can't really sell at a class or anything like that, you know.
Mm,
So
mm, mm,
so
mm,
yeah, at the end of the day, we take care of our reputation a little bit, take care of the practice. We try to be role models, even though we do make mistakes. We have bad days, good days, as everything
mm-hmm,
else. But I mean, we are not here because we want to be in this show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being in this show is consequence of doing the things that you like the things that you
Totally
want
right.
to do. We are very patient in this. We don't try to move. It took me. You can ask Philip. You can ask Patrick. It took me a long time to become an instructor, a cave instructor.
As it should.
It took me a lot of time, a lot of practice, a lot of calling people, a lot of bothering friends like teach me this, to then go and give it without not. And to then not teaching it, it's like it took me so long to become an instructor that I want to teach you, not bring you there without teaching you. So
well, look, and I mean the other thing too. I mean, if you heaven forbid you do have a problem, I mean, you're the last thing you want is a panic diver on a single cylinder or whatever, or untrained, whether they're on the right equipment or not. And then you've got to deal with it, and you've either got to, oh, look, I don't even want to go there, how bad it can be. So, no, mate, I'm with you 100%. Hey, listen, we have done super well here. We've gone for as long we could go. I feel like we could go for days, right? And sometime we need to make that happen. Certainly, Dominican Republic is on my list, and I would love to come and have a look. How do you, if you're traveling to Dominica? I'm assuming you can fly in from somewhere.
From the other side of the world, probably I'm assuming you have to go to California, to LA, and then from LA you have to cross to pretty much the same. How do you go to Mexico? Through LA, Florida, Mexico, or something
through
like that.
LA or Houston normally, and then fly to
exactly. So
Cancun,
then from you can do the same. It's like because Auckland, LA was my longest flight ever.
Sure, yeah, it's a big one. Yeah, I've done it a lot. Yeah. Well, right now, I don't know if they'll let me in anymore, so I might have to fly to Vancouver or something and come down from there.
Yeah, so, well, then you have to go to LA. Then to LA, you will go to either Dallas or Florida, and then to the DR. And then once you're in DR, you just have to bring yourself there, and we will spoil you a little bit.
Awesome. Mate, that sounds amazing. I'd love to do it sometime, mate. It's been awesome to meet you. Great to learn some more about you, the art of diving, the philosophy behind it, what you've gone through to become a cave instructor, and the business that you've built there sounds phenomenal. If anyone wants to check it out, have a look at DR Local. You'll see. Do you have your own YouTube channel? I know you have a Facebook page, The Art of Diving. Do you have a YouTube channel as well?
I do not have a YouTube channel. I've been thinking a little bit, but as I told you, the only technology I kind of know how to handle is the sheer water. Then the rest.
Well, you know what? With Philip there, he's such a good videographer and so good at
he's an artist,
capturing
man. He's
it.
an artist.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
People.
All you have to do is carry the lights.
Born with that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's amazing.
So
amazing human.
We do post a lot of videos, photos on Instagram, then on our website you have, and we send, like, when people contact us, we show them, and our customers usually when they come here, they are taking very good videos and putting in. We are sharing everything. Sure. We do not have a YouTube channel because I have no clue how to edit a more than 30 seconds what the Instagram let you do. So that's why I haven't gone into that. But yeah, we're promoting ourselves through Instagram and for cave diving and word of mouth. And I think Perfect. The word has been spread all the way to New Zealand. So I guess we're doing 100%. kind of okay.
You're doing amazing. And I'll put all the links up on the podcast notes. So if anyone wants to check out The Art of Diving, meet up with Xavi, go diving in the Dominican Republic, enjoy some of the culture and food and what they've got there, then just look at those notes and reach out. That's been brilliant, mate. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you talking to us about what you're doing in Dominican Republic. So thank you so much.
I appreciate your invitation. It's been a privilege.
You've been listening to Speaking Sidemount from www.sidemountpros.com. If you like the podcast and would like to support the show, then why not become a patron of Speaking Sidemount? For as little as $5 per month, you can become a part of the Speaking Sidemount team, get exclusive early access to all of the episodes, and help us to deliver the very best Sidemount, cave, and technical dive content available. Just go to www.patreon.com/speakingsidemount for all of the details. The address is also on our Facebook page, listed in the podcast notes. Thanks again, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode of Speaking Sidemount.